Hey, what's up YouTube? I know you guys have been wanting more HoggyQ gameplay analysis, so that's what we're doing. Molite is playing against Recruit's Bait here, which I know a lot of players struggle against, so let's break down what he's doing. He has a Mighty Miner on the field, which is giving him 3-card cycle. He goes for a beautiful Hog Rider to pull back the Recruits, pull back the Mighty Miner, with a prediction log just to get crazy value. Firecracker is going to activate the King Tower, and then immediately goes for Skeletons to kill it. And then the opponent goes for Recruits in the back. Now he immediately pressures with a Hog Firecracker because you're not going to be able to get damage later on once the Recruits are further up. So he gets the Hog hit, he was hoping probably for another Firecracker hit, and now he has to defend. Ice Spirit just to get everything slowed down, Mighty Miner up high, pull everything to the middle. Opponent goes for Wall Breakers, he uses his ability, and he has his Evo Cannon. Now look at this, he uses an Ice Spirit, a really fast Ice Spirit, to push the Hog over to the cannon. Because he had 3-card cycle, he got 2 cannons down, and he also has King Tower activated, so these Wall Breakers get no damage. This is a really smart play. He immediately goes for a Hog. He knows that because he doesn't have cannon in cycle, his opponent's going to punish him with a Hog, and so he decides to go for a Hog of his own so that you trade damage and you don't basically lose any damage compared to your opponent. Now, he has a really good lead, and the opponent goes for 4 Recruits in the right lane. Watch this. He logs at the perfect time so that the Firecracker doesn't hit the cannon, but it still has crossed the bridge so that it dies. He goes for Skeletons up high, Ice Spirit onto the Wall Breakers, Cannon, and look, he immediately goes for a Mighty Miner at the bridge because he knows he can go for his Evo Cannon to hit the Goblins. I mean, that's like crazy. Opponent gives up, and he's just gotten so much value in this matchup, and he made this look like it's easy. We've got some really exciting matchups to cover throughout this video, and in fact, I'll put them up on screen for you guys. I'm going to be fully explaining the plays behind the guys who have mastered HoggyQ and are all top ladder players. This won't be a breakdown for beginners, so if you're new to the game, this video isn't for you. I've saved the absolute best matchup till last, so make sure you watch all the way to the end. First up, we're going to be watching Alina Gaming. Now, he actually has a YouTube channel that I'm going to have linked in the description for you guys. In this game, he's playing against Miner, Balloon, Tornado, which is a very difficult matchup. The opponent not only has Tornado for the Hog Rider, but he also has a Valkyrie, an Evo Valkyrie, and an Evo Xe, which both full counter Hogs. And at the same time, he has these Miner Balloon pushes, and all you have is your Firecracker to try and defend. So you're going to see a masterclass in how you actually play against these matchups. He goes for his ability, and this ability is quite nice because it forces the opponent to now try and just keep overspending Elixir to try and defend this Mighty Miner. You see, the Mighty Miner is still alive on that left lane. At the same time, he's using a Hog, using a bunch of cards to distract. He gets 400 damage on the left, but overall he is down a little bit at the start. Now, what's the game strategy? You can't go same lane in this matchup. If you try going same lane in the matchup, your opponent will just use Valkyrie, Skeletons, Ice Spirit, something like that to fully counter your Hog Rider, or whatever they do. Even if you manage to get a Hog hit, the counter push is going to be too much, because it's all going to be in one lane, and you're not going to be able to defend. So you have to go in the opposite lane. The next thing is that you'll see throughout the matchup how he manages to keep his Mighty Miner on the board for as long as possible, allowing him to have 3-card cycle for as long as possible. Like here, he went Mighty Miner in the back, now he has a Firecracker. Another big tip I want to give you guys is he doesn't try over defending. He does log the Miner, but you'll see throughout the matchup he does not over defend his Firecrackers because the opponent has Zap, and trying to go Ice Spirit Skeletons isn't going to work. Next big tip is he always goes for his Balloon at the bridge. Going for it at the bridge delays as much time as possible for your towers and your troops to try and kill balloons. Next up, when they have an Evo Valkyrie, you can go for an Ice Spirit, as I believe you just saw, to try and stop the loop, the Nado loop from a Valkyrie, and then it'll actually get your Hog to the tower, so it forces the opponent to use another Tornado. Look at this. Insanely nice Hog Rider in the middle. I think 99% of players wouldn't have done that. Why did he do that? So that the opponent makes it very difficult for the opponent to line up the Xe as you just saw, and so that the Xe then wouldn't kill the Firecracker. That's something I learned just watching this. Goes for a Hog. Now watch this. He goes for his Evo Cannon in this position. I want you guys to memorize this. This position is different to normal because it's for an Evolution Cannon. It will push, and actually one of the bombs from the Evolution Cannon will hit the cannon. Will hit the balloon as it's crossing the bridge. So that's something you guys will notice. He does that for all of his Evo Cannons. Look, he has Mighty Miner in the bag, right? goes for a Firecracker. You see, he always goes Mighty Miner first, then Firecracker for 3-card cycle. 3 places a cannon because the opponent goes Balloon in the back. Again, 3-card cycle. Look at this. So he stops the Valkyrie crossing the bridge using his ability. He uses an Ice Spirit to distract the Xe, and then also uses a Hog Rider. The opponent now just used his Nado, and that gives him... That means he now knows that his opponent has to use Skeleton, so he prediction logs. Gets Hog damage, and now he's in the lead. Again, it goes really aggressive because he knows the opponent wants to go for a Loon. Now the opponent went for the Loon, and he can't support it. High Cannon deals with the Valkyrie and pulls the Balloon at the same time. Like, crazy value. Next big tip in the matchup, he goes for an Ice Spirit. A lot of players would have just left that. Why? Actually, if you're the minor Balloon player in this matchup, you're not really expecting to get Balloon hits. What you are hoping to do is get the Balloon death damage. So you have to try and stop that. Look, again, that Evo Cannon placement I mentioned, now he's like gotten to a point where he has 2 Firecrackers on the board, and he has 3-card cycle, and he has another cannon on the field. He's in a really good spot right now. Goes for his Earthquake, goes for his Log to try and predict the Ice Spirit, just narrowly misses. Hog instantly goes in aggressive. He goes Skeletons on the right, predicting the Miner, but actually the Miner was on the left side. Firecracker, Ice Spirit again, just delaying. You see, he keeps going for cannons up high, uses his Mighty Miner ability to try and catch his opponent off guard, and you can just see how well he's abusing 3-card cycle. Now there's 15 seconds left, and this Balloon is going to break through with death damage, which means he has to try and apply pressure and make his opponent mess up, because his opponent is just spamming, and EQ isn't going to be enough. He EQs, 3 seconds, the opponent nados back the Hog, and the Hog in the last second gets a hit and he wins the game. Like, what an insanely perfect game. The next matchup I'm going to be covering is one that you just need to know how to beat. It's going to be one of the most popular matchups that you're going to face this season and in the future. It is in fact 3.0 Xbow, which I believe for the last 2 seasons in a row has finished #1 in the world. Now, you're probably wondering why he went cannon at the bridge here, and my best guess is that he had a really bad cycle, and he knows that his opponent's playing Xbow, so he's probably expecting him to split archers in the back, and that's my first tip that I want to give you guys, is that archers are a 3 elixir card, cannon is a 3 elixir card. It's actually not a bad play to just cycle a cannon. Now, you don't cycle it low because they'll just get a fireball on it, and that's pointless. But if you play it up high, it will actually counter both the archers in both lanes, and it's a 3-for-3 trade, so it's not actually a bad play. The game strategy with Xbow is very complicated. It is 100% your matchup, but it is extremely difficult to play, and you're going to see that this game comes down to the last second. The reason it's difficult to play is for a few reasons. Number one, their archers. Their Evo archers are basically their win condition in this matchup, and if you don't know how to deal with that, you're going to lose. The second one is just the Xbow and the fact that you only have a 1 tank. You only have your Mighty Miner, so when you don't have it in cycle, what do? How do you defend when they go for an Xbow at the bridge? Those are the things you need to learn. You basically never go for Mighty Miner in the back, but he went for it in the back here because his opponent didn't have Xbow in cycle. That's the only reason why he went for it. He cycles a Firecracker, just, get some damage, maybe try and hit the tower, but really just DPS down this knight. Nothing too complicated. As far as matchup strategy goes, the biggest tip I can give you guys for this is you always have to constantly mix up your ways of defending the Xbow. You're going to see in this game many different ways of how you can counter an Xbow. So this is way number 1, right? He's going to get to his Mighty Miner and he goes for it down low. Then what is he going to do? He's right now just tanking. His opponent goes for Evo Archers. Bang, he has Evo Cannon. So that's the first big tip. You can look at this placement. That cannon placement anywhere in that lane will hit anything at the bridge, will also hit the Xbow. So that's probably the most effective way of dealing with Evo Archers when they play it at the bridge, is that you'll see because he's playing Evo Cannon, he's cycling a lot of cannons so that he gets Evo Cannon in cycle so he can make that kind of play. Here again, he cycles a cannon. You actually do want to be cycling your cannon. Firecrackers as well are usually quite useful as well for dealing with stuff when they play it in front. And the second way is going for an Earthquake. That's the most obvious way of defending Xbow, and that's why people think this matchup is like so free for Hog. Believe me, it's not. It's just going for an Earthquake Log. Earthquake Log does not fully counter an Xbow. That's something you need to learn. Look at this cannon placement. Pay attention. That cannon placement is an anti-fireball cannon placement. The opponent cannot fireball the tower and the cannon at the same time with that cannon placement. Again, it keeps cycling. At high level, this is a high level game, right? This is like top 100 in the world or something. Your opponent, as Xbow players, they know they're not going to be able to break through, so you go for Xbows for pressure, Yeah, that's obviously another way, right? Not now you go for a hog plus earthquake in order to defend Xbow. So that's like way number 3 of defending an Xbow. And you can see he keeps mixing it up. Anyway, going back to what I was saying, you'll notice that Xbow players are fireball cycling because they know they're basically not going to get an Xbow connection. It's very difficult. They can, it's just very, very difficult. And fireball cycling, basically... Okay, I'll explain it in 1 second because there's quite a lot to explain there. So here he goes for opposite lane, and again, look at this. He has Evo Cannon in cycle. He's actually been cycling his cannons, which is something, a big mistake people don't make because they don't cycle their cannons. He has 3-card cycle, he goes for hog opposite lane. Anyway, back to my previous thought on the matchup strategy. I just want to explain to you guys that when they go for an Xbow, you have so many ways of defending it that they're not really going to be able to break through, and they know that. And so what their plan is to fireball, and that if you earthquake their tower at the same time, that means now you don't have earthquake in cycle. This is something I want to explain. Very quickly, he went Mighty Miner in the back and went for Prediction Cannon. He knew the opponent was going to go for an Xbow because he played his only tank in the back, which is what I said you never do. But he purposefully made a quote-unquote mistake to bait his opponent into going for an Xbow and Prediction Cannon. I kid you not, that's the kind of stuff you have to pull if you want to be a top ladder player. Crazy, crazy stuff. Alright, again, opponent didn't have Knight in cycle, which is why you can go Cannon. When the opponent doesn't have Knight in cycle, they have to go for a cycle cards at the bridge, which are like Skeletons and Ice Spirit, and that means you could just log or even just ignore it and your cannon won't die. Opponent gets a beautiful prediction fireball off on that cannon, and opponent does actually get a tiny log. This game gets really close. Log, cycle, and you're going to see in the last second that fireball doesn't land. Very, very close game. Loads to learn from this. The next matchup that I'm going to be covering is probably one of the most requested matchups I get here on the channel, and it's none other than Goblin Giant Sparky. Goblin Giant Sparky isn't actually a bad matchup at all, but it gets extremely complicated and difficult to defend these massive pushes, sometimes even double lane pushes, so I'm going to be breaking down how you beat it. Goes for a Mighty Miner in the back. Now obviously he pops the ability now because there's no point just letting your Mighty Miner die. Goes for a hog. Opponent uses 6 elixir in the right lane, and so you're going to apply pressure in the opposite lane. Now watch this. He goes Skeletons at the bridge. You see how it's keeping the Sparky in place, and now the Goblin Giant and the Sparky are really far apart, which basically allows his towers to isolate each individual troop. So now the Goblin Giant's dead, now he can focus on the Sparky. Beautiful log. Look at this. Skeletons, he's just trying to pull everything to the middle, right? He goes for a cannon. I mean, this is like... That's probably one of those beautiful single elixir defenses I've ever seen. That was really nice, right? The opponent went for Prediction Rage because the Dark Prince hit and a Rage would have fully killed the cannon, but he played it outside of even the Prediction Range. Pulled everything over. One small detail in that I think a lot of Firecracker players or just Hockey Q players have no idea about is that if you go for a Firecracker at the outside of the arena like you did on the right side, you can still hit troops that are on the left side if you pull them anywhere near the middle. They don't even have to go all the way to the middle. If you just pull them closer to the middle, the Firecracker won't cross the bridge. The Firecracker has probably the largest sight radius of like any troop in the game, or at least it's on par with the most in the game. So let's break down this massive defense because this is where a lot of people choke, right? So first he gets 3-card cycle with Mighty Miner. Then he goes for his Firecracker, Skeletons to tank Sparky hit, and then he goes for his Evo Cannon. Evo Cannon pushes back the Mega Minion, is just delaying everything, right? Late log, all of the troops are dead now, he just has to deal with the Sparky. First he goes for his E-Spirit to tank the shot, and then Skeletons. Right, so you can see how he broke it down. First he went Firecrackers to get the shot. He didn't go for a cannon early. Why? Because the opponent, for example, went for his Mega Minion, and it's impossible that the opponent starts doing like prediction plays. He goes for a very, very aggressive play. I'm not sure about this Firecracker, to be honest. It ended up being okay, but I don't think ideally... I mean, he was probably expecting the opponent to go for a Mini P.E.K.K.A. To defend, which is why he went for his Evo Cracker. But now he's going to have to try and defend without his Evo Cracker. How does he do it? Okay, opponent rages and zaps. You know that's how they're going to get rid of your Firecracker. Opponent doesn't have arrows as of yet. So Skeletons as well. He had 3-card cycle, so he's got 2 cannons down. And even though he doesn't have Evo Firecracker, he made this look like the easiest defense on Earth. You can see the key to this is just abusing the living crap out of 3-card cycle. You can get 2 cannons down, you can get 2 Firecrackers down. It's very easy. Now here he Earthquake cycles, right? You're getting towards Earthquake cycle range. and this game gets very close. So opponent goes for a Goblin Giant at the bridge because Mo went for his Mighty Miner in the back. Earthquake. Why does he Earthquake? Because Earthquake log fully kills a Mother Witch. That was a mistake. Those skeletons were a mistake because A, the log won't kill the Sparky, really close, but B, the Mother Witch spawns some of her pigs. So that was the only mistake, but now that the mini Peck is out of cycle, he can just freely get a hog and he wins the game. So really, really nice game and loads to learn from as well from this one. Alright, let's keep going. Our next matchup that we're going to be covering is Giant Graveyard. And this matchup used to be, honestly, a really free matchup, but ever since the introduction of the Evolution Witch, it's actually become one of the toughest matchups just to navigate. It's not the worst matchup by any means, but you definitely need to know how to play it and how to deal, especially with this Evo Mother Witch. And same with Evo Snowball. Evo Snowball can just completely decimate your attempt to defend or attack. So we're going to see how he manages to completely dismantle a Giant Graveyard deck. So tip number one, I gave this in a previous video. Whenever they go for any giant card in the back, you basically always go for a Mighty Miner in the back same lane, right? So then the opponent responds with a Witch behind the Giant. What does he do? Firecracker, that's going to clean up these skeletons, kind of make his life a bit easier. And I've mentioned this previously, but whenever you're playing a deck that's like this, where they have arrows, you need to make sure that you're cycling your Firecrackers, getting the arrows out, and then getting back to another Firecracker. Okay, another big thing is, why did he use the ability there? He used it immediately. See how he used it immediately? He did that so that the opponent was forced to use minions, right? You want to just try and force as much elixir out as possible. This was pure genius. To be honest, I would never have done this, but he decides to take the skeleton damage and immediately go on attack because the opponent doesn't have anything in cycle. Then, when the opponent is forced to Mother Witch, he knows Mother Witch is out of cycle, minions are out of cycle, Skarmy's out of cycle. He goes for Mighty Miner at the bridge opposite lane. Do you know how ballsy that is when you know your opponent's got Giant and Evo Mother Witch in cycle? I mean, and look, he used the ability, takes half of the right tower to fully take the left tower. Insane. So as a matchup strategy guide, the reason why this works especially well, and look, he doesn't even lose his tower, he's going to play a Firecracker in a second, but the reason why this is such an effective strategy, if you can make it work and you're like really good at cycle counting, is that in this matchup specifically, Graveyard is really bad in a 2-tower situation. So if you can get it to a 2-tower situation, you actually have the advantage, right? Because you have your King Tower activated, it makes it very easy to defend Graveyards, especially if it's opposite lane. If it's same lane, it can get a bit tricky, but if it's opposite lane, you're doing pretty well. You don't normally want to tower trade because you actually can defend, but if it's a situation where you can tower trade, it's not the worst thing to go for. Now look at this. He does not defend the left side. Very important. There's no point defending and wasting all your elixir. You're going to guarantee take some damage. There's no point. You might as well just make sure you fully defend your opponent's right side lane attack, and then make sure you take his right tower. So his right tower is only at 280 HP. It will go down with ease as long as he doesn't choke a defense. So okay, here comes the Evo Snowball. He goes for his Evo Cannon, hoping to take out that Mother Witch. EQ takes it out. You can see how he's being very aggressive with his building as well, just to make sure the Mother Witch dies. Because if that stays alive, then he gets a giant graveyard and it can get complicated. But clean game. Jumping right into the next game, we're going to be watching one from none other than the best player in the world, probably the best player ever, Molite. And he's playing against Alperen. And Alperen, if you guys didn't know, has been basically a top 1, top 2 Xbow player since the game came out. He's been around forever. And he is playing, if you can look at his deck, he's cycled 2 Spirits, which should give you a clue that he's not playing 3.0 Xbow, he's actually playing PumpBow. So Alperen went for a Knight in the back, which is why Molite went for a Mighty Miner in the back, and that meant that Alperen knew Molite didn't have a tank in cycle. So he went for an Xbow opposite lane, knowing there's nothing to tank for the Xbow. However, because there's no Knight in cycle, there's also no Knight to tank for the cannon, and so Molite went for a cannon and a hog to tank for it. Clean defense. The way in which you lose this matchup is basically by being indecisive. You need to know, do you Earthquake the Xbow or do you Earthquake the Pump? And you're basically going to see how he handles this matchup. So cycle the Firecracker in the back, and you see that Firecracker hit the Archer, which put it in log range, immediately log, Firecracker's off the board. Archer's off the board, Firecracker's lining up now, hitting everything. Okay, beautiful defense. Yeah, that was a bit of a mistake. Obviously, Mo did not mean for that hog to jump. If you guys didn't know, as soon as the hog jumps over the bridge, the Xbow does retarget because it now becomes like an air card for a second. So you always need to make sure you play your hogs in the middle of the bridge. Don't play it on the outside of the bridge where it will jump and let the Xbow lock. I actually have no idea why the opponent let that Evo Firecracker get a hit, but anyway, he's back to another Xbow, and you can see again, like in the previous Xbow matchup, you really need to be cycling cannons. Cannons are really useful because they help you get to your Evo cannon. And there he fully defended an Xbow in a new way that we haven't seen yet this video, by going for Evo Cannon Earthquake. So there's a lot of ways of defending. So as soon as the pumps is cycled, you go for an Earthquake. And so, little tip for you guys, I asked you that question, what do you Earthquake? You should be Earthquaking the pumps, because you can get rid of Xbows, but if you just let the pumps sit there, they're just going to be constantly giving your opponent more and more and more elixir, which obviously you just can't allow, because eventually they'll be able to break through if you let that happen. So another big thing is your opponent is going to be, if they're good, they're going to know to keep swapping lanes. So you need to also be dynamic and swap lanes with them. Look at that, cycle the Firecracker in the back, then immediately went Prediction Cannon on the right side. I explained that earlier in the video. In this case it wasn't a tank, but still a really nice play. Goes for a hog just to get rid of the Xbow, and then look. He went for a log, the opponent couldn't go goblins, so he had to Ice Spirit, and then the knight was pulled back, and then he just got an Evo Firecracker just to get ridiculous amounts of damage. Cannon to tank, that's another big thing in Xbow matchups. I see a lot of players don't realize you can use your cannon. You must use your cannon as a tank. You don't just have a Mighty Miner as a tank, you actually have a cannon and a Hog Rider, so use them, right? In this case, Knight is out of cycle, and so he can again just go for Mighty Miner to tank plus cannon. Never ever only go for a tank. This is one of the mistakes that I make. Don't just go for a cannon onto an Xbow. Go for either a Hog Cannon or Mighty Miner Cannon. Look at that, Hog opposite lane, Firecracker DBs. And to conclude, we're going to be watching Alina Gaming play against none other than RG Monk. And I promised you guys I would save the best game till last, and believe me, the defense you're going to see in this game is ridiculous. Like, honestly, I don't think I could do this if I practiced for 1,000 years. So, okay, let's see what he does. Mighty Miner in the back, opponent's got Evo, Witch, Monk, RG. And Lightning, by the way. Do you know how ridiculously hard this matchup is? Anyway. So he uses his Mighty Miner ability just to tank. He's not letting the Monk cross the bridge. The Witch therefore goes in front. He was basically stopping the Monk from crossing the bridge the whole time. The Firecracker does die, but he does get some damage in return in the right lane. Okay, there's a lot to break down on what he's going to do here and what the matchup strategy is. In general, you obviously have to go opposite lane. Your opponent has Lightning, so you have to keep that in mind with how you space out your troops. And okay, opponent goes for RG in the back. He doesn't have Mighty Miner yet, so he goes for a Firecracker. Goes split skeletons. Usually you want to try and protect it, but I'm guessing he thought that the opponent would go for Fisherman on the right side, because it's kind of too obvious the play the opponent made, and sometimes obvious play works. So since the Fisherman is, you want to let the Fisherman and the Royal Giant get close together so that the Mighty Miner can kill both of them without the Fisherman pulling the Mighty Miner away. Immediately punishes and goes for, look at this punish, immediately goes for Mighty Miner ability, Hog, Evo Firecracker, as soon as he realizes that the opponent has gone for his Evo Witch. One big reason for this is that you want to be really aggressive in single opposite lane when your opponent is using Evo Witch so that they can't support it, and also just so that the opponent messes up their cycle. In this case, he did a really good job being very, very aggressive. Whether he gets damage or not is honestly not even that important. So here, the Spear Goblin Hut is out of cycle, so he does actually get some hog damage, and look at this. Goes for a very aggressive Firecracker at the bridge. Now, you really need to learn this if you want to master this matchup. Why does he do that? He does that so that the Monk no longer has its ability. Therefore, he can just cannon in the back like this, and that the Monk can't do anything, right? So basically what you do is you cycle a Firecracker aggressively way before the Monk gets near to the bridge so that you stop it from having its ability once it crosses the bridge. Here, he's just cycling. Look at this. Beautiful Evo Cannon even killed the Mother Witch there. Awesome defense. Nothing. I mean, he literally took no damage. Again, look, Evo Firecracker. He even sacrifices his Evo Firecracker. Why? Because otherwise there's no other way for you to defend. Goes aggressive Evo Firecracker opposite lane. The opponent is going for Monks, by the way, on the right side, just so that he has 3-card cycle forever. The opponent doesn't need to go for Monk in front of the RG, because there are ways as a Hog player you can counter that. especially with your... Okay, let's slow down. Look at this defense. He has 2 RGs on him, and he's going to try and find a way to defend. So he's focusing on the right side. Left side, he gets an Evo Cannon down. The Evo Cannon pushes the Mother Witch, the Evo Witch, to the cannon. Witch is still alive, but the fact that he's not dead after that push is astounding. Okay, Firecracker gets value. He uses his Mighty Miner just to distract everything. Then look at this. The most perfect Evo Firecracker timing so that it's no longer when the monk got its ability up. He has 2 Firecrackers down. The big tip, you got to stack Firecrackers. You guys already know that I'm going to say that. You have to stack Firecrackers if you're going to win this matchup. Literally, the Firecrackers obliterate the Spear Goblin hut, and he actually manages to get a hog hit. So he has a massive lead right now. Genuinely, just so far, flawless gameplay. Like, match strategy-wise, flawless. He's reacted perfectly to his opponent. Again, he's being very aggressive. He's got a Firecracker. He goes for his cannon because he has 3-card cycle, and also the opponent has lightning. So cycling cannons when when the momentum shifts is actually quite important. This is actually where things go wrong. He goes for a really nice cannon here, and look at that Mother Witch, dude. It survived on 1 HP. And I'll spoil it, but he does lose this game because of that pure unluckiness. But look how he defends. Just look how he defends this, right? 2 cannons, both sides defending, log. I mean, this is like, how do I even commentate this? There's so much going on. That Mother Witch, by the way, that Evo Witch, sorry, is still alive. Now it dies. And it's only because that Evo Witch stayed alive for so long that he actually does lose this game. Very, very unfortunate. Lightning doesn't hit anything, but opponent prediction logs, and this game's over. But I wanted to show you guys this game because honestly, if it wasn't for that pure unluckiness of that Mother Witch, he would have won this game. And the defense, this hot and the mat, everything was perfect about this game up till that point. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please, guys, make sure you subscribe, like the video. It helps me make more of these, and honestly, the channel growth has been amazing. So I just want to say a massive thank you.